Welcome, everybody, to Exit the Maze podcast. I'm your co host, Scott Jones, along with Dr. Donna Marks. Thank you for joining us today. And a quick reminder, if you like this program, please subscribe and share this with your friends. It's important that we get it out that way because this is good information that we want people to have. Donna, how are you?
I'm doing well. I got a little rundown. I was transferring my mom from one facility to another. She's in nursing care and had to go over to the West Coast for business and got a little rundown. So I've been laying low for a week.
Ah,
That's part of
I would assume
self-love, right?
I assume that's physically and emotionally run down, doing things like that, right?
Mostly physically. Yeah, I felt like
Okay.
I was trying to catch something. And I was really needing to put on the brakes. So that's what I did the past week. I've been working from home.
Well, we've been talking a lot about self-love and about how loving yourself is really the key to successful recovery from pretty much all addictions and even mental health and trauma issues. Self-love is so important. Um, but you know what? We're going into a season where we've got Halloween, then Thanksgiving, then Christmas coming up, which I feel like is almost like it almost sets people up for depression and for sadness and for stress. It's you eat candy on Halloween and you kind of fall off the wagon on your diets, and in Thanksgiving you're dealing with a lot of family issues, and Christmas you deal with all the presents. I find that that's a very stressful time. You as a therapist, do you see that as well with your clientele, that the holiday seasons are hard?
Well, they don't have to be. I think we can control a lot of what happens, but it's definitely a big trigger season for relapsing, particularly on three things: substances, shopping, and sugar. The three S's.
The three S's of shame: the substances, shopping, and sugar. All right.
So we could tackle the first one, which is Halloween, and sugar is a very addictive drug. It's not considered a drug by everyone, but if you look online and research sugar in the brain, sugar and addiction, you'll see that it is referred to as powerful as cocaine when it hits that frontal lobe of the brain where the reward center is. And the minute it hits that part of the brain, particularly when you're talking about candy that's sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, which is like having 30 proof alcohol instead of 14 or 15 proof. It really triggers that response of more and more and more and more and more. And people tend to wonder how they ate a whole bag of jelly beans or a whole bag of M&Ms, and then they reach in the bag and it's empty. And not to mention the weight issue that goes along with that.
Certainly.
But
Yeah.
it's really bad. And so what I'm hoping to help people to do, and again, I don't make anybody wrong or shame anybody or anything like that. This is about education and inspiration. We want to inspire people to make good self-love choices. And it feels like you're loving yourself when you're getting that hit, and the bling, bling, bling on the
Right.
brain.
Right.
But that isn't love. That's substituting addiction for love. So the best time to start learning about this is when kids are little and having conversations with them. We're going to go trick or treating if you want to, but we're also going to let's talk about other things we can do. And I'd like to make a bargain with you. How about if we go trick or treating around the block or for 20 minutes or whatever, and then we have some friends over? And how about if we decorate the yard before we go trick or treating? How about if we make some scary smoothies, all green and googly? And how about if we carve some pumpkins that we can keep out for a couple weeks after Halloween? Get some pumpkin decorating kits, and we could even make our own costumes. Wouldn't that be fun? I bought some makeup here just for that. And would you be willing to make that kind of a bargain? And I guarantee you the kids are going to go, oh yeah, can so and so come over, and can so and so come over? And then you teach them about the candy by going through it. Let's look at the labels. You see this, you see this candy corn, you see these pumpkins. The pumpkins were my favorite when I was little. Okay, they have corn syrup in them, which means they've got a lot more sugar melted into them than, let's say, these Reese's Pieces only have sugar, not high fructose corn syrup. So this would be a better choice. And let's pick out a certain amount of these that you'll have after you have your dinner. And then let's put the rest in the box out front for people to get, or we'll give them away or whatever.
Yeah, give it to the neighbors. Let them get sick.
You can throw it away. You can give it away. You can take it to your office, whatever you want to do. But most kids will jump on that opportunity because they love to do that. They like the candy, but they love to do fun things and be with other kids and crafts and decorating and making smoothies. And then after you get your candy, we'll make some popcorn. We'll go watch a Halloween movie. It could be, a scary movie for teenagers or whatever, or something, Charlie Brown and Halloween for younger kids. But it's a great way to plan a loving, fun, enjoyable, and memorable Halloween instead of one that you're going to feel sick the next day. The kids, they eat the candy in the morning and then they go to school and they're hyper and then they have a sugar crash and then, it's a disaster. So.
Absolutely. We got a couple of people tuning in here. Sandy, who happens to be my mom, is saying hello. Debbie,
Hi, your mom?
Debbie,
Hi.
Debbie Bettendorf is with us. She's saying hello. Her show is on tonight, which I'm on with her tonight at 8:00. It's called Find It. And she says, substances, shopping, and sugar. Oh my. So let's talk about that a little bit more about, giving your kids good lessons at this age is going to make all the difference. It really is. But you also don't want to deprive them. You're not saying that. And I heard that there's compromise in there. There's sweets are okay in moderation, and if they're the right sweets, and there are some sweets that just almost are never okay, at least not to be in the human body. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, they're never, yes, that's basically it. They're just so refined and so addictive that it's better not to get into it.
So as a parent who likes, and I love Halloween, I love to participate. I bring all of my my speakers and all my DJ equipment out on the lawn, and I set up the lights around the house, and I have fog machines, and pretty much everyone in the neighborhood comes to my house and dances. I could have 50 or 100 people on my lawn dancing at any given time, and I love doing that. And I love giving candy to the kids. What as parents should we do in our neighborhoods? What kind of stuff should we be giving out that might be? Because you don't want to give the kids an apple because they'll just throw it at you. What are some good alternatives that we can do so that they can still enjoy the experience, but we're making sure we're giving them something that might not be quite as bad?
Well, there's little coloring books and crayons. There's crafts. If the kids are older, they're just going to want candy. So at least if you're buying the candy, look on the packaging. Like I said, things like Reese's peanut butter cups have sugar, but they also have peanut butter and chocolate. Peanut butter and chocolate, unless you're allergic to it, isn't bad for you. In moderation, of course.
Yes.
There is still sugar in it, but it's not going to have as much of an addictive response as the high fructose corn syrup. So the kind of candy you buy, and look for alternative types of things, little gift packages, crayons. Some people put money. It just depends on what you want to spend, throwing a quarter in or 50 cents in or $1 or whatever. And that can get pretty expensive if you have a lot of trick-or-treaters. If you don't, then it's not that bad of a situation.
Absolutely. So definitely high fructose corn syrup. We want to avoid that whenever we can. Why aren't people more up in arms about this? It seems like there are alternatives. So I think it would seem to me the only reason they're using it is because it's really, really sweet and is probably addictive, and people will come back and buy more of your stuff. Why aren't we raising our voices more about this, Donna?
Well, I think we've gotten so used to things being okay and we don't realize we're addicted. Most people just think they have bad habits. And so, I've got a sugar habit, I've got a beer habit, I've got a shopping habit, I've got a gambling habit, and then they start and stop the behavior so they think they have control. But if you look backwards and see the negative consequences and the accumulation of those negative consequences, you would have to, if you're honest, recognize that what you really have is not a habit, but an addiction, or you would have never done it repeatedly. You would have modified your behavior permanently. And most people don't because they don't know how to substitute the addiction for something enjoyable that is love and loving. And so that's why we keep stuck. And the more we engage in addictions, then the more depleted we become and the more dependent we become on them because we've substituted them for relationships, for fun, for activities, for hobbies, for interests, for socializing, and taking care of ourselves and fulfilling our purpose. So that's the key.
It's it,
One other thing I might want to add, some
yeah.
people feel that, and I meant to say this earlier, some people think that granola bars and health bars are a good substitute for candy and they put them in the bag. But make sure you check the labels on those because most of them also have sugar, lots of sugar, and high fructose corn syrup. And I believe that the maximum suggested sugar intake per day is about 30 grams maximum. And sometimes one granola bar or one candy bar can have a lot more than that just in that. So check it. I know that Luna bars only have 7 grams of sugar, but there are most bars have a lot in there. So just be mindful and check it out. The New York Times did an article on low sugar foods that aren't really low sugar. And you can find that article online. I would encourage people to read it because really what they were having was candy bars when they thought they were having health food bars. So
Oh,
again, we can't just, we need to take responsibility for educating ourselves and being informed.
it's amazing. Just thinking back to my childhood diet of things like Captain Crunch and Pop Tarts and you
Still very
know,
popular.
yeah,
The
yeah,
cereal aisle is a massive aisle and it's boxes of candy that you're serving your kids for breakfast. A
and you
bowl
go
of
into the
candy.
cereal aisle, and there's a lot of things that are disguised as healthy. You're absolutely right. That
Right.
actually are not a whole lot different than just I mean, there's some cereals that are just like, hey, we're all sugar. That's what we are. That we're proud of it.
Fruit Loops.
I appreciate that more than somebody disguising something as being healthy.
Uh-huh,
I'd
uh-huh.
rather them tell me, listen, this is all sugar. You give this to your kids, they're going to run a marathon, and then they're going to get angry and crash.
And
Fine.
then they're going to get diagnosed as ADHD and
Yeah,
referred to a psychiatrist. And then they're going to be put on a very addictive drug called Adderall or Ritalin.
right.
Adderall does not have as much amphetamine as Ritalin. Nevertheless, kids on these drugs are much more likely, look it up, and I have all these stats in my book, Exit the Maze, One Addiction, One Cause, One Solution. It's coming out in December. But they tend to become, because their brains are still developing, and now you're putting an addictive drug in their brain to modify the other addiction, which very frequently is either a sugar addiction, nutritional problem, or they're leaving an emotionally disturbed home and they're going to school and they can't function and then they get diagnosed as the problem. They have a brain disorder and they get put on these medications and then they do get a brain disorder because when you put mood altering drugs in a developing brain before it's developed especially, you are going to have a brain disordered, potentially addicted individual.
It's crazy. I mean, people are being the ADD is enough to scare you. Kids in their teens and 20s becoming pre-diabetic just because of all the sugars and everything. But they also have, if you go down the sugar aisle, Donna, they have different options on sugars too, and they try to make it like this is a healthy sugar. You got cane sugar,
Fortified
you got
with
this sugar.
vitamins. Yeah.
They got raw sugar in the raw. I've seen that one, and I'm like, I'm not even sure what that means. Um, are there any healthy sugars, or at least
Well,
sugars that are not as
it's
bad?
yeah, it's certainly better to eat unprocessed sugar because it's once it's refined, it's concentrated. so
Oh,
when it comes right out of the cane and granulated, it is more natural sweetener. It takes more to get a sweet, but it's not necessary for you to use more. But the problem with
okay.
sugar is the sweeter it is, the less your palate notices something sweet. If you eat sugar and then have a grape, the grape almost tastes sour. But if you don't have the sugar and you eat the grapes taste very sweet. And so when you have highly processed sugar, it's so concentrated that you need more and more and more to get that effect. And so if you are going to use sugar, it's certainly better to use unprocessed sugar than processed, and definitely not high fructose corn syrup. These are the leading causes of fatty liver, obesity, and diabetes too.
Wow.
Sugar.
Wow. And this is all in our control. This is the weird part. If people paid a little more attention to look for these things on the label, don't look at the front of the box, look at the label, because the front of the box will tell you one story. You look at the label, it has to tell you the truth. Uh, Take some time, look at the labels. Listen, when you're at a birthday party and somebody hands you a piece of cake, enjoy the cake. That's fine. It's one of those things you just have. But when you're at the store and you can buy a different product and not have as much sugar in your system, I think people need to start doing that. We are pretty unhealthy as Americans, aren't we?
Well, a lot of Americans are, and then there's also a movement for health, and that's very important because it is inspiring people to do better and to be healthier, and that's really wonderful. And just like been inspired, and you're choosing healthier foods to eat and meal preparation, and your whole mood has changed and your energy level has changed. And that's the reinforcement of substituting self love for an addiction, that you actually begin to feel really good about yourself and with others.
uh, I could hear a whole population of people out there in the world saying, "Oh my God, not another addiction! Not everything's not an addiction. People just need to just pull themselves up and stop doing things." Um, Not everybody accepts all this stuff, do they?
Most people don't because they don't understand it, and
Right.
the problem is that and I have been addicted to just about everything. So I do understand it. Your brain gets hijacked, and so you say, "Well, I need to give this up. Well, I'll do it later." And then, you do finally do it later, and then something triggers you and you re-engage again. And so until to me, addiction is that feeling that something's missing. It's that void. And so there's my treat. I made it for a whole year without eating sugar or having a cigarette. I deserve to have just one, and then that
Yeah.
starts the ball rolling again. Same thing with alcohol or any other addiction. Sometimes people shopping addictions are in debtors anonymous, and oh, I've got money saved, I'm doing great, I can go shopping and get myself a little treat. And rather than just sticking to their budget, they give themselves permission to splurge, and then they're off the rails again. So it's something that we cannot control. It will never be controlled, but we can replace addiction with self-love so that we can get our needs met. We certainly don't need sugar. We don't need drugs. There's a lot of things that we become addicted to that we don't need, pornography, and all kinds of gambling. But there are certain things that we do need, like good food and loving relationships. And so to be able to distinguish these relationships from loving relationships with food and people and things versus addictive relationships is really important. And you're right, you can't just try and cut off everything. I mean, if someone is truly a sugar addict, they will be taught not to eat sugar. Uh, I was at my daughter's wedding this weekend. I'm fortunately have not become addicted to sugar. I'm very controlled though. The wedding cake was passed out. I took one bite, savored it, took another bite, savored it, and it was really sweet. And I don't eat sugar, so I noticed how sweet it was, and I put it down. But I enjoyed those two bites, and I was able to do that. But if I had a sugar addiction, I would not be able to do that. A lot of times when people quit smoking, they develop a sugar addiction because the tobacco is cured in sugar. So when they stop smoking, they're craving it. Same thing with alcohol. They used to
Yeah.
pass out donuts and candy bars at 12-step meetings because alcohol has so much sugar in it. That was a substitute. There's also only one chemical compound different in sugar and alcohol. And so that triggers, a whole new addiction when you quit smoking or you quit drinking and then you start eating sugar.
We're getting some comments here. We're getting a hello from Lynn Serrano. I do the podcast with her on Tuesday nights with Scott and Lynn as we all see it. And Kelly, who we just started a new podcast with up in New Jersey. She's saying, hi, Scott and Dr. Marks. And she's also saying self-love is paramount. She agrees. She is a holistic practitioner. And she's a Reiki masters, a massage therapist. She does a lot of work with people. And we do a show all about that stuff. And self-care and self-love is so important. And of course, Michael's been with us before, and he's saying he wishes he had your control. Is it control or is it training? Or because I don't think the word control really applies, does it?
Yeah, I don't have control over my addictions. If you think I have control because I had 2 bites of cake, it's just because I'm not addicted to sugar.
Right.
If I were, I would not be able to have 2 bites. It would be where's the next piece? For the first bite, it would be like, I hope there's 3 pieces left over.
I never said how big the spoon was going to be. I'll grab a shovel instead of a spoon.
I could never do that with alcohol or drugs or cigarettes or some of these other things. I just would not be able to do it.
But people do that with food all the time, Donna. They try to change their eating habits. And sometimes because they are morbidly obese or they have health problems or, certainly they have the addiction with sugar and stuff. But somehow with food, people always assume, hey, listen, it's okay to have a cheat day. And a cheat day isn't having 1 or 2 little tastes of something. A cheat day is I'm eating a whole pizza today. And that's a health. It's kind of like we're lying to ourselves with that it's okay to do that, aren't we?
Well, I don't recommend it, but here's the thing. With food addicts, most people are triggered by carbs and sugar. Not good carbs like sweet potatoes and things like that, vegetables and fruits, but by gluten type carbs, breads and pastries and things. So people have to figure out what it is that once they start, they can't stop. That's the key. And if you are powerless over a particular food product, then you have to, for one day at a time, not do it. And most importantly, find a substitute for that. And one of the things that I love to teach people is how to turn their addiction into a career. And for people who love food and who have food issues, find recipes, create your own recipes, write your own recipe books, spend all that time of going to fast food restaurants or eating candy or searching out the best bakeries and all, into making your own things that don't have sugar and wheat in them. And there's some amazing recipes. There are some amazing chefs who have done just exactly what I'm saying. They were sugar addicts and they have written cookbooks on sugar-free desserts and all and things like that. So spending that time, you can even start your own podcast. You can start your own webinar. You can join cooking classes. There's all kinds of things you could do to replace the time that you use on killing yourself, which is what people do when they have eaten to the point that they become obese. They don't like it. They don't feel good about themselves. They don't have the energy. And so they now shift this into self-love, which means community and cooking and recipes and fun, having a good time with it. And then the weight just falls off. You're
People
still
do enjoy
satisfied.
sharing that stuff. Yeah, they really love
Mhm.
sharing that stuff, whether it's on social media or just amongst each other, or like you said, a podcast now. I'd like to think we're special, Donna, but anybody could do a podcast. Is the truth, you know.
Absolutely. Well, once you
And
have the equipment, which is the hardest part, and you've done all that.
yeah, well, once you got the equipment once you have the topic that you're passionate about, you got to be passionate. And certainly, you and I are passionate about all forms of recovery. We have to be. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's see. Sandy again is my mom. Feeling guilty, just bought Halloween candy, but feeling good. I haven't opened it, so she feels good that she feels bad. She bought the Halloween candy for the kids, but she's happy she hasn't opened it and eaten it herself. That's a good thing. Let the parents work that out with the kids. Michael says, I'm a type 2 diabetic and I'm addicted to sugar. Um, you know, uh, Let me see.
And that's why I just want to say, people who get addicted, it's not your fault.
And he
Yeah,
says, what's worse, I love my pastas too. He adds in there he loves his pasta. So
right.
what would you suggest for somebody like Michael, who is obviously an adult? He's a type 2 diabetic. He knows he's addicted to sugar. He knows he's got a problem with carbs because of the pastas. What's a good starting point for him without throwing your body into complete shock?
Well, like I just suggested, finding recipes or creating
Yeah.
your own, learning how to cook without sugar and without gluten. There are lots of, and I've made them myself. I can't even tell the difference. There are pastas made without flour, the gluten-free flour. You can buy it in any grocery store, well, any grocery store I've been in. Let me put it that way. I've gone to Trader Joe's and Publix, and I've never had a problem finding gluten-free flour. And it makes delicious pasta. You can also buy gluten-free pasta online, either in small bags. I one time ordered a 10-pound bag. It came in a big box. And
Yeah.
so you can make all your Christmas desserts with it. There's also some wonderful sugar substitutes out now. One of the more recent ones is called allulose. It tastes just like sugar, and it doesn't have the intestinal side effects that some of the artificial sweeteners do. So people actually can reverse their type 2 diabetes when they get healthy, which is amazing. And it's a matter of loving yourself. See, what's happening is sugar feels like you're loving yourself when you eat it because it makes you feel good. But I don't want you to feel good for a few minutes and then suffer the rest of the day and the rest of the week and the rest of your life and have to wear these things on your arm to measure your pancreatic functions and insulin and all that. I want you to feel good the rest of your life and be happy. And you can do both, right, Scott?
Absolutely. And I'll even speak for, my business partner, Karen, who is a diabetic. And instead of in managing through her diet, manages her diabetes simply by eating the proper foods and avoiding certain things. But there's, you know, Don, I can't stress enough what you were just saying. There is unlimited possibilities in cuisine, no matter what you eliminate. If you're going to need to eliminate gluten, there's unlimited possibilities. If you're eliminating sugar, there's unlimited possibilities. There's always something because not everything's ever been created. Have fun with it. Be creative. And every once in a while, you're going to make a recipe that's going to go straight from the pan right into the garbage can because it didn't work. But that's
Right.
part of the joy of it. I mean, I'm
Exactly.
sure you've made some recipes and said, no, we're not doing this one again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just made me think of something I meant to mention earlier, too. Like, one thing you could do for Halloween is make and decorate your own Halloween cookies with gluten-free flour and sugar substitutes. Or if you're not so worried about sugar, at least use the cane sugars and things like that, or these other healthier substitutes. there's recipes how to make them with honey, how to make them with all kinds of substitutes that aren't going to cause diabetes too. But this could be really fun for a family to make pumpkins and ghosts and decorate them and put them in sealed plastic wrappers and give those out as treats.
Natural sugars in fruits and vegetables, mostly in fruits. Um, are those by and large acceptable? I mean, are those as bad as like processed sugars?
There's a lot of debate about that. I personally think that if Mother Earth grows it, it's safe. So, some people say you shouldn't eat honey, you shouldn't eat fruit or anything. That doesn't make
I believe Cheech and Chong used the same argument years ago, but we'll talk about that later. No, but
Yeah,
I
well,
hear
I
what you're
should add, if
saying.
it's not mood altering.
There we go. There we go. But yeah, so those are almost always good alternatives for people, are fruits and vegetables. And there's so many absolutely beautifully sweet fruits and everything. It's almost like going out and having candy.
It tastes very sweet if you're not deadening your palate with real sugar. Yes.
That's a good. I like that. Let's say that again. You're actually ruining your palate by eating all these sugars, so
Yeah,
that
it
when you
deadens
are
your
eating other
palate.
things, you're not tasting the sweetness. You're not tasting everything you could taste because you got all these artificial flavors that are ruining your palate. Does that come
That's
back after
correct.
time?
Oh, of course, it'll come back right away.
Because I know it came back for me. But I thought that was just me because things taste better and things when I'm not
Mhm.
drinking sodas and doing and I'll enjoy a diet soda once in a while, just like if somebody has a birthday, I'll have a piece of cake, but I'm not seeking that out. I'm not buying it for myself. I'm going home. I'm trying healthy things. And my palate has changed immensely. Just one drop of white truffle oil can change an entire dish. And I never knew that before because I was always had this garbage on my palate,
Right,
you
right.
know?
And you've really
So
gotten into the cooking too.
I really love the cooking part. I love the cooking part. Now I've got to commit to the exercise part. And does that play a part in reducing cravings when you're physically active, when it comes to food and food addictions?
I think exercise is important as long as it's not extreme. When I quit smoking, I went into extreme exercise, and I don't think that's healthy at all.
Doesn't even sound like fun.
Well, it was fun because you get high, and a high is a
Uh,
high. But
yeah.
there's a difference between, a natural endorphin production from doing some reasonable exercise, bicycling, walking, even some jogging, going to the gym, skiing, do the kind of exercise that you love. If it's something that you love doing, then you're going to keep doing it. And so I like Pilates. I like going to Orange Theory. I like to have that structure and it's in my schedule. And I like the group involvement. It's nice. But I also love going out for a nice walk along the trail in Palm Beach and other things and bicycling. That it just makes me feel so good. When I'm on vacation, I love to hike. So, but it's reasonable. It's not like killing myself doing it. And yes, you get a nice little buzz from doing that, but it's a healthy workout. And then
Yeah.
you also the side benefit is that you're getting that blood flow, you're getting toned, and you're going to be much healthier than just losing weight.
Now, when it comes to losing weight, changing your diet, I don't want to say going on a diet because I don't think going on diets is it's a silly idea. That's where I want to lose a lot of weight really quick, but I'm not going to stay on this. Changing your diet and changing your habits, that's better. When you're changing your habits, picking up exercise, changing your eating habits, how important is hydration in all of that?
It's important to have lots of fluids. Your body needs it, and when you're getting rid of all this toxins in your body from trans fats, and unhealthy sugars, you want to get that flushed out as quickly as possible. Plus, the fact that your organs need a lot of fluids to operate, and your brain needs a lot of fluid, and your blood and all that. So, it's important to have a lot of fluids.
So when we say fluids, can I ask, coffee, is that included?
Well, coffee is a fluid, and sometimes it's gotten a bad rap because it has caffeine, and caffeine is a diuretic. But I recently read that it doesn't need to have as bad a rap as people say, and you can't substitute 6 glasses of water a day for 6 cups of coffee a day. So some coffee's okay.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend it. Talk
and
about jitters.
right, right.
How
People,
about things like sodas and stuff?
well,
Those are not. I mean, drinking a Diet Coke is not hydrating your body, correct?
well, again, it has fluid in it, so it's not going to hurt you unless you're doing it in excess. But
Okay,
the best thing for your body is fresh water. And
right.
then you can always add a little fruit juice to it. If, some people like me, I just have a hard time getting down plain water unless I'm really thirsty, which is usually after a workout, but just generally. But I'll add a little bit of orange juice, just a couple tablespoons, no big deal.
Yeah,
And an occasional diet soda. A regular soda is you might as well take a fourth of a cup of sugar and stick it in your water and drink that instead, because that's basically what soda is.
wow.
And same thing with Gatorade; it's just full of sugar. Some of these health, like we were talking about earlier, some of the health bars and the health foods are really full of sugar and not good for you at all.
A lot of the meal replacement shakes and things like that, there's a lot of sugars in those and
Yes.
carbohydrates as well, so you gotta be careful of that.
Yes, it's something I've kind of gone to the health food store and looked at the labels. In my practice, I work with people who have eating disorders and a sugar addiction. And so one of the things that a lot of people like to do is make smoothies in the morning. So they put the fresh fruit, avocado, maybe some cocoa powder, almond butter, or peanut butter without sugar. And we have to be very careful on the can. It does not say sugar.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the sweeteners too. So I'd much rather they get something without any sweetener in it at all, and then add a little honey or some of the more natural types. There's monk fruit, honey, uh, I can't name all of them off the top of my head, but there's 5 or 6 natural sweeteners that are perfectly safe. Some people throw some dates in, but you have to be careful on some of the fruits because they are high in sugar. Even though it's not bad sugar, you gotta be careful that your smoothie doesn't have 2,500 calories in it, which is, way more than most people need for a whole day.
Yeah, you may as well eat a pound of bacon and have some pancakes if you're gonna do that. Banana's a good way to add, sweetness to a smoothie as well, because a banana
Yes,
actually creates a lot of sweet, flavor, so,
yes.
that's true too. Um,
You can always
the
put a
last
half
thing I
a banana, and
what
if you need more, add a little more.
the last thing I see people doing, and I see this with a lot of people who are coming into recovery from addictions and alcoholism and drug addiction, um, they are drinking these energy drinks like there's no tomorrow. Um, the Celsius drinks, the Red Bulls, the energy drinks that you know supposed to get you all hyped up and do all of this stuff. I mean, these are not healthy things for the human body, are they?
Well, they're very high in caffeine, and people are getting a kick out of it.
Okay.
Getting a little high off of it, so they should be limited for sure. Sometimes we need a boost for whatever reason. Maybe we didn't sleep well the night before. We have to stay on and we need a little bit of a boost. And so a cup of coffee or a high energy drink is okay. But when you're drinking them all day long, you wind up getting addicted to them. And that is not good. You're really putting your whole adrenal system into overload, and that's not good for your body.
We're not, we're coming towards the end of the show. I don't want anybody to think that we're saying you got to be perfect with everything. Well, no, we're not saying that. But if you've
We're
got things,
certainly not.
we're not obviously. But but if things are causing a problem in your life, if the foods that you're eating are not serving you well, listen, if you're eating and maybe you got a few extra pounds, or maybe you're just maybe you eat a lot of junk food, but you're happy with how you feel and how your life is going, that's on you. But if you're feeling sluggish and you're feeling bad, like I've been feeling, and run down, losing energy,
Or
don't
you
feel
open your
comfortable with
open
you.
your medicine chest and you've got all kinds of medications to treat
Yeah,
the side effects of your eating problem
exactly, exactly. And,
or
you know,
drinking problem.
very unhealthy to be taking antacids twice a day. It's very unhealthy to be doing that stuff. And the weight doesn't feel good on me. I don't like where I was at. So then make a change. That's all we're saying is if something's not serving you, change it. But you got to really kind of go all in if you're going to do it properly, right? Or at least to your
Right,
best of your ability, to the best of your ability.
right. Pick one thing and substitute it with an act of self-love and see what happens. And you'll find that the momentum towards doing the next right thing and the next right thing builds instead of it
Yeah,
draining you. You think you want this, this, and this to eat, but it's draining you. It's giving you a little bit of good feeling, and then it's draining you. And what I want you to do is reverse that you replace what's draining you with something that gives you energy, gives you good self esteem, gives you lasting feelings so that you feel energetic, you feel good about yourself, and then you're draining the addiction rather than it draining you of your health and vitality.
absolutely. And that little bit of exercise can go a long way. I'm going to tell you the truth. If I'm working in the yard or if I'm exercising, when I come in the house, I don't want to drink like sugary stuff. I want something cold, like maybe water with lemon in it or something that really quenches me. And if I'm going to eat something, I'm not going to eat a candy bar. I want to eat a cold piece of fruit or something that's got a little juice to it. So it almost like it promotes healthiness. When you do one healthy thing, it can actually build on each other, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, it has a synergistic effect. And then the
And
more that's going on, the better you feel.
and it's an adventure going to the supermarket. And spending more time in there's one aisle that you could spend time in that's going to change your life. It's the spices aisle. There are spices and flavors and different things in that aisle that you never even thought of trying. Have you cooked with curry? Have you tried it? Do you know how many great things you can make using turmeric? Do you know how many great things? Learn about that stuff and have some fun with it. Um, Roasted
Absolutely.
cauliflower with turmeric is fantastic. Never would
Yes.
have had that before.
Yes. Yes, and you can find these recipes online and you can create your own once you get good at it and then post them online. And then you're really getting a good feeling because you're helping other people, just like the suggestion you just made. It's very helpful to people to think and to imagine things that they can make that were actually healthy and as delicious, if not more so, than the junk and
Right,
garbage. Then you're
right.
treating your body the way it was intended to be treated with real food. And now you've turned it also into a hobby and an interest, which makes it fun.
It's
Diets
just
aren't fun. Diets are never fun.
no.
Which column do I pick here? And how much of this do it's just, and then you're just like, going through all those uh, changes, psychologically. And when you do this in a way from where you're coming from love, you don't go through any of that. You might go through a little detox with withdrawal, which you'll notice right away. But after a couple of days, that's over, and you're just busy uh, enjoying your food and enjoying preparing it and enjoying it as a hobby and an interest, and most importantly, loving yourself.
Love yourself. There's no rules to this. If you're going to change your eating habits, it doesn't mean everybody's got to go start eating kale. If you don't like kale, don't eat kale. It doesn't mean, there's other green leafy vegetables that'll give you the same effect. And you maybe do some spinach. You don't like spinach, lettuce. You don't have to.
There's
Everybody
a there's
assumes
a
that
new kind of
they think
Go
of the
ahead.
worst thing. They think of the worst vegetable, and they're like, "Well, I can't eat that." Well, you don't have to eat that. There's 100 other things out there,
One
thousands.
of my one of my favorite salads is they've started selling that it's called butter lettuce, and it says right on the package, more iron than spinach. And I'm
Does it
like,
really?
"Whoa, yes." And so
Wow.
I put that with avocado and olive oil, and I love it. And sometimes I'll throw some seeds or nuts on top, and as a lunch meal or as a supplement to a main meal, and it's delicious. There's so many wonderful things to eat, and they are quite delicious when you know how to prepare them.
And you can spend a year building different kinds of lettuce wraps, different kinds of things, just amazing things. Um, it's impressive. Try, for Michael, try the gluten-free pasta for a couple of times. The first time you're going to be so focused on it, you might, try it twice. That's all I say. Try things twice. If I try things for the first time, I already have a judgment. I got to get past that. Sometimes I don't want to buy into it, but try it twice.
And don't overcook it if you're going to get it pre-made. But also, there's all kinds of pasta makers. I have two. I have one that goes on my KitchenAid, and then I have one that was made. I can't think of his name. He advertises on TV all the time, but it's
Emerald?
an electric. Yes,
Oh,
Emerald pasta maker, and they're both wonderful. Wonderful. I make homemade pasta all the time, and like I said, the gluten-free pasta is delicious.
Yeah. I don't eat rice anymore, and I used to love rice. Like if I make chili, I got to have rice with it and this and that. Well, you know what? Cauliflower rice, it gives you the texture, it gives you everything else. It doesn't have the same kind of flavor, but you know what? Rice doesn't really have flavor anyway. It's whatever you add to it. A few additives, a little sprinkle of this, a dash of that, and all of a sudden you got you something incredible. All these things you can try and start switching from your sugary candies and things like that to fruits and things like that. Just start making a change. You know what? You know what's a great substitute for candy? Buy grapes, wash them, break them off, so that they're individual. Wash them, and then dry them off and put them in your freezer. And then when you take them out, they become like little ice bites, but they're flavorful, and it's almost like a candy or a popsicle.
Yes. And then another thing you can do is you can make your homemade ice cream maker. Emerald Pasta comes with an attachment that you can run frozen fruit through, and it makes a sorbet. And it's got nothing but like banana sorbet, mango sorbet. It's wonderful. And it comes out in a nice little custard, and it's delicious.
That's right. Learn words like sorbet. Get healthy, people. Take care of yourself. And stop thinking about it like you're robbing yourself of something, and start thinking about it like I'm opening myself up to other things.
Right. You are robbing yourself of toxins, chemicals, trans fats, and all the things that clog down your organs and cause you to have heart attacks, cancer, stroke, diabetes too, and lung disease. That's what you're robbing yourself of.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. There's so many great things out there. Donna, we've come to the end of the show, and as always, it's just such a pleasure talking to you and exploring all of these things. I hope people take something away from this today, because I think this was important. I don't think food gets the attention that it needs when it comes to addictions and it comes to self-care. It really doesn't get the attention it deserves, does it?
Not nearly enough, but that's true of all addictions. We think of an addiction as someone who's in a tent city or, passed out on the side of the street with a needle beside them. And that's just a very, very small percentage of the billions of people that are suffering from addiction or love someone who is suffering from addiction. And so it's my mission to have this conversation and to help us to be more enlightened to the reality and what we can do about it, And it doesn't have to be a drudgery, oh my God, it's a positive experience. There's nothing more exciting than getting yourself back when you've been hijacked. And it's a self-imposed imprisonment. And to be free from that and to say, who am I and why am I here? And to be able to embrace your life and to love yourself and to show up as who you really are and not altered by all these addictions that are so present everywhere, that you can really, really be a symbol of love for yourself and others. It's a joy.
That's incredible. And again, thank you so much for all that you do, Donna, and the dedication that you have. And before we go, I always got to ask, granddaughter, how's she doing?
She is precious. She was at the wedding and she stayed up the whole time. She was only 1 year old and she was dancing, and I got to hold her and take her down the aisle, and she was just absolutely precious. Thank you. And it was a beautiful wedding. Thank you for asking.
1 year old and she's already out partying you. That's kids. That's kids. Just wind them up and watch them go.
Yeah. Hey, here people are dancing. Watch me dance. Yeah, it was great.
Fantastic. Again, thank you for everything that you do and all the knowledge. I want to thank everybody for joining us.
Thank
We had
you,
a lot of
Scott.
people, of course, and all the people who joined us and the people who will be watching this and sharing this. We hope all of you find ways, new ways. Um, maybe you don't even have some addiction issues. Maybe you don't have any real problems in your life, but maybe you could still improve on your self-love. There's always room for improvement when it comes to taking care of yourself. Don't you agree, Donna?
Absolutely. The most exciting thing is that you never run out of things to grow,
Yeah, that's true.
including yourself.
Including finding new ways to discover new things about yourself. It's always a great journey. So don't get yourself stuck in the muck and the mire of addiction. It's time to move past that and do something different. Check out drdonnamarks.com and you can look at when the book is being released, which is just in a couple of weeks.
December
Exit the
13th.
Maze. When?
December 13th.
December 13th. That's like 7 weeks away or something like
Yes.
that, maybe 8.
Yes, it's
So
actually in production right now. It can be
fan-
pre-ordered right on my website too.
Oh, okay. You can pre-order it, and that way it'll just be delivered when it's ready.
Yes.
Fantastic. So make sure you do that if you want to learn more about what Dr. Marks does. If you want to know more about what we do here at Addiction Training Center, go to atceducation.com. Learn about our trainings and certainly all the things that we're involved in too. But the biggest thing is just thanks for watching. It means the world that people spend time with us. And Donna, I hope you and your family have a wonderful Halloween.
Thank you so much. You too. We're probably going
And
to be watching the World Series.
you're rooting for the Phillies, right?
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank
You know,
you.
I didn't like it when the Astros were charged with cheating. I don't like that because
I
I
know.
wasn't
And then
rooting for
nothing
the
happened
Phillies.
to them, right? They got
What?
like a slap on the wrist, but they should have lost their title.
I can't understand it. I really can't. But anyhow, that's another whole topic, isn't it?
We're going to stick around the next hour. We're going to start a sports show just because we can.
We could talk about intellectual dishonesty.
Yes. And there's an addiction to winning as well. So you know what? Maybe we'll talk about that. We'll set up next week's show. It's so hard to say goodbye sometimes with you and I. Let's set up next week's show with
Sports and
talking about
addiction and winning and honesty. Yeah, that's
addiction to behaviors, not necessarily to like substances and other things, but addiction to behaviors. Now that'll include things like gambling and shopping and stuff like that, but also telling lies, doing things like that. We actually create these habits that become addictive. So
yes.
we're going to talk about that. Always something interesting. We'll catch that next week. For Dr. Donna Marks, I'm Scott Jones. I want to thank you all for being here. And remember, if you want to have yourself a good day, all you got to do is just do one thing nice for somebody and do 2 things nice for yourself. You'll never have a bad day. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.